Hello everyone, welcome back to the Brittney Reacts Show. Again, this show is where I talk about movie news, entertainment news. I go over different things that are going on in Hollywood, such as the strikes. Not a lot of strike talk today, but mostly Disney, because Disney, once again, just absolutely bewilding you guys. Like, what in the world? I've been talking a lot on my channel about how Disney has a remake problem, a sequel problem, a reboot problem, and they're never beating those allegations because look at this, y'all. Look at this. They might be doing a live-action Tangled adaptation. I'm not kidding. And not just that. It doesn't stop there. They also could be doing a live-action Princess and the Frog. Live-action Princess and the Frog. What the heck, y'all? And Marvel's in the hot seat as well because it looks like they're visual effects workers. And yes, I just realized it's misspelled in the title. I will fix that. The visual effects workers are planning to unionize, which means that they could strike. So there could be a triple strike going on in Hollywood. So yeah, lots going on today. We have a lot of fun things to talk about. But how are you guys? I see we already have a lot of people here. Hi, Jojo Rod. Hi, Phoenix Hunter. Hi, Josh Loves Movies. Hi, Frankie Wants a Snack. Hi, Rain. Hi, Anne. Hi, Koharu. Hi, Itzel. Hi, Crystal. Hi, everyone who's here. So we actually don't have a ton to talk about. The news is kind of slow today. So we have a lot of time to just talk about these individual subjects. So let's get into it. But before we get on to those remakes, I do have a couple of other news I want to get to first. Firstly, how can I not mention the most shocking bit of news that I've seen in a long time, and that's Blue Beetle looks like it might actually do semi-decently. What in the world? We talked about like maybe a week or two ago how Blue Beetle was tracking to open like 30 million worldwide, but now it's like it might actually open 30 million domestically. So Blue Beetle might actually do okay, y'all. I'm shocked. Shock is all. I really thought all these DC movies were just gonna be dead on arrival, especially after The Flash flopped so hard. So are you guys surprised about this? Are people excited for the Blue Beetle movie? Like, cause I gotta tell ya, it's just not for me. I don't know if it's superhero fatigue, that could be my issue, but I honestly think it's just, I don't know, DC hasn't really done it for me lately. I liked, what have I liked recently? I liked Joker, okay. I don't know, I've always been more into Marvel than DC, and then after all these movies they've been putting out haven't been that good, like The Flash and all this other stuff. I don't know, I'm not that excited for this, so I'm kind of surprised that it's looking like it might do okay. Yellow Umbrella says I couldn't care less for Blue Beetle. Yeah, Yellow Umbrella, I'm in the same exact boat with you. Rain E says Blue Beetle might be lightning in a bottle. I wonder who's powering this. Like, who's actually interested in this? I don't think it's DC fans. I think it's gotta be like the casual moviegoers or something. Ariana says Blue Beetle seems fun. Okay, so a few people think it looks fun. I think this begs for a poll, though. Who's actually interested in seeing Blue Beetle, and who is not? I would be in the not part, but it seems like more and more people are. So I'm just gonna put Blue Beetle. Are you gonna see it in theaters? Yes or no. Those are the only options. Or maybe I'll say streaming. That's the third option. Okay. And just added to the community right now. I have to say, I think the Aquaman 2 might do alright, but even the first one wasn't that great. Although, did I ever tell you guys that I met Jason Momoa at the Aquaman premiere, the first one? That was such a random experience. Really fun, though. He was really nice. The cover girl says, I won't watch it. It's not for me. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Josh Loves Movies says, the Blue Beetle Battalion. I'm sure it has a lot of fans. Apparently it does. So far on the poll, it's at 52% of you are saying no, you're not interested in this movie at all. 22% are saying yes, you actually might see it in theaters, while 26 are saying you'll maybe see it on streaming. I feel like that's probably accurate. I don't know. That 23%, you guys are going to be doing a lot of heavy lifting in the theaters. I hope you enjoy the movie, though. I genuinely do. Ending the poll now. The Modern Designer says, I'm done with the extended universes. I prefer simple standalone stories like the Batman and Joker. I get that. Honestly, I get that. I'm starting to feel the same way. For a while, I was like, no, I like the shared universe stuff, but I'm starting to see where the cracks are showing. I don't know if I'm enjoying it as much as I used to anymore. But moving on from Blue Beetle, we only have about like 2 very short pieces of strike news to talk about, and then we'll get to the entertainment news. So a sad piece of strike news is I was actually kind of looking forward to this, but the live action How to Train Your Dragon movie has been delayed because of both the WGA and SAG strikes. So anyone who was invested or interested in the live action How to Train Your Dragon movie, speaking of live action adaptations, it's going to be a lot longer before this one comes out because, again, they can't shoot anything right now. And we're probably going to see a lot more movies get delayed because of this. I think this is, again, just the beginning. But I feel like this was one of the few adaptations that I actually thought had a chance of being good. So I was kind of excited for it just because I was thinking maybe this would be something like House of the Dragon, where it's just like kids riding around on dragons can be kind of fun. But I don't know. This has been delayed now. Anyone upset about this? Anyone indifferent? Joshua Munn says delayed. It needs to be canceled. No, why are you saying delayed? Oh, that sucks. Slackjaw says, I want less live action remakes. I want to see more animation. I'm actually with you there. I'm with you there. I think Hollywood needs to realize that animation is becoming more accepted mainstream, and it doesn't all have to be live action these days. I think the executives who are in charge of greenlighting movies, I think the majority of them still think that animation is like just something for kids. But I really wish they would change their mind about that. GQ Boy says, why is DreamWorks also on the live action train? I think they're just trying to copy Disney. They probably saw how all their live action movies made a lot of money, or at least a lot of them did. And they're like, hey, we have our own, animated catalog of movies. Maybe we can do live action remakes. And so this is their first one. Although thinking about DreamWorks' catalog, I don't see what else they can do a live action remake for. Like, you definitely can't do a live action Shrek. That would be horrifying. I don't think anyone wants to see that. You can't do a live action Kung Fu Panda because it would just look like the freaking Lion King, where like it's just like all just computer generated animals that just look creepy. So I hope that they don't do that. They don't have a lot of properties that could easily become live action. So this is kind of the only thing I can think of that they could do. Dantes says, I'm sick of live action. It seems like a lot of you are, and we're going to look at some of the reactions on social media about the Disney reboots in a second. Editing Geek says, live action Ruby Gilman. No, they couldn't do live action. I mean, I guess they sort of could do live action Ruby Gilman. But I don't know. Oh, Dee just gifted a membership. Thank you so much for gifting a membership. You're so kind. And it looks like Kazaki is now a member. So thank you, and welcome Kazaki to becoming a member. Josh Loves Movies says, live action B-movie or Shark Tales for the memes? Oh man, I actually really liked the Shark Tale movie when I was a little kid. I loved the Shark Tale movie, actually. It wasn't until I got a little bit older that I even realized that critically the movie was panned or whatever, because I liked it. When I was a kid, I thought that movie was great, and then I got older and was like, oh, wait, people don't like that movie? I thought it was cool. But the B-movie, I know, the B-movie memes, that would be sad to lose those. I love those memes. The cover girl says, interested in DreamWorks' version of a live-action remake. Yeah, I wonder if DreamWorks can make better live-action reboots than Disney can. I'm very, very curious to see how they tackle this. Because I think, here's my vision, okay? Here's why I think this actually has some potential. Imagine, will you, if you've seen House of the Dragon, or really just imagine, like, actual dragons in a live action setting with like a school of teenagers or whatever who are there to learn how to train them. Like that actually sounds like that could be a good live action movie regardless of it being adapted off of something. That's why I'm kind of excited about it. Megamind. I guess they could kind of do Megamind. Would you guys want to see a Megamind like live action? I don't know. A live action Prince of Egypt. Oh, I would love a live action Prince of Egypt. That's a good idea. I don't think a live action Shark Tale would work, guys. Nah. But a live action Prince of Egypt would actually be really good. Although, do you think it would be too controversial in today's climate to be able to do? Because that movie would have to, like, navigate a minefield of political controversy. Just everything. Even though it would be really, really good, or it could be really good. I just don't know if that movie can even be made today. Yeah, not Megamind, Tareem. I'm with you. I don't know. I don't want to see that big old head in live action. No. Oh, no to the live action Prince of Egypt. Interesting. Live action Over the Hedge? No, I don't want live action reboots where the movie is just based on a bunch of animals. I'm over that. I think that kind of stuff is best left in animation. Alright, moving on though. Another just quick piece of news before we get to the main story of the day. And it's that the fact that Netflix, of course, Netflix, the way that Netflix just kind of sucks sometimes. Apparently, they don't pay their South Korean actors any residuals. Like, we've been talking about the strikes and how one of the biggest talking points in these strike negotiations is how no one's really getting, like, good streaming residuals. No one's really getting, like, a fair share of the money from streaming. And it looks like the South Korean actors are getting paid even less. Look at this. This is pretty awful. Not only do they not get any residuals at all, but apparently they're only paid about $300 up front. So they're not even getting paid a lot up front either. So I bring this up because I know we were talking about how because of the strikes and because Netflix won't be allowed to really like produce anything in the next couple of months, that they might rely on like Korean content. But it looks like Korea might not even allow that because they feel like Netflix is exploiting their workers. So it looks like Korea is doing a better job of protecting their workers than here in the US. So that's great. So let's see how this develops. I think that's also pretty tragic. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nicholas Wilson, for the super chat. Always very generous, always a supporter in the chat and on Twitter, so thank you. Megamind was truly awful. Why would you? It was never one of my favorite DreamWorks movies. Honestly, I don't think they need a live-action Megamind. I'm definitely good with that. Oh, and we have another super chat from Little Joe Animations. Thank you so much for the super chat. You're very, very kind. Thank you. Yeah, it's not surprising, unfortunately. And Styles says, Netflix is confusing sometimes. Yeah, I kind of feel that way. It's like, I want to like Netflix, but the way they treat their creatives has me on the fence a lot of the time. Step up your game, Netflix. Exactly, Frankie. Oh, Prince loves K-dramas. Who watches K-dramas? I gotta tell you, I've tried a few of them. They're pretty good. Yeah, this is bad, baby banana. Hidden Names says, oh, you just think this is funny. Anise Alchemist says, can we stop treating animation as lesser than? Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about all these live action reboots, and let's just get on to it. Because whenever Disney does these live action remakes, what they're saying is that we think that anything can be improved upon in live action, that there is something kind of inherently lesser than about animation that needs to be improved upon by bringing it into live action. There is that kind of like mentality or idea, and I get that. I really, really feel that way as well. It's kind of messed up. I don't think that we need a live action adaptation of Tangled. I think that movie came out not too long ago. I feel like a movie has to be like minimum, like maybe 20 years old before you start talking about bringing it back for a new generation. Because a generation itself is about 20 years. So if if you're redoing a movie that came out like less than 20 years ago, you're not remaking it for a new generation, because that generation who watched this movie when they were younger, when they were kids, they're still like pretty young. It's not even like it's that long ago. Like this movie came out when I was in high school. So it, even though that does feel like a long time ago, it's still like we haven't grown up that much, you know? Like I feel like these movies are just too recent. Baby Banana says not a live action Max. Yeah, I know. Can you imagine all these animals in live action? Like imagine a live action Pascal, or a live action like Maximus. The like how are they going to do her hair in live action? Like can you imagine how expensive just her hair alone is going to be? CD Wood says these are all really good. We don't need to do this. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like Disney thinks that they can just improve them and then modernize them. But then when we actually see these live action reboots and remakes, they're never as good as the original. Name one live action remake that's actually as good as the original. You know what I mean? It's kind of crazy. Like think about the live action Little Mermaid. Even though I like that more than most, I still think it's nowhere near as good as the original. Or the live action Beauty and the Beast. I also didn't think that was anywhere close to being as good as the original. So what are we doing here? We're just remaking stuff worse. That's what they're doing. I don't understand it. 0.0 says, I was 5 when Tangled came out. I'm 17 right now. Exactly. You're still really young. It's like you're still within that same generation that the movie was originally intended for. So that's my entire point. It's like it's not that this movie is not old enough for a remake, is what I'm saying. DreamWorks couldn't attempt live action remakes, instead do sequels. I think they should do more sequels. Like I would 100% prefer a Tangled 2 and a Princess and the Frog 2 rather than a live action remake. Same thing with Moana. Would love a Moana sequel. I don't need a live action remake. Especially because you know the live action version can't even come close to the visuals of the animations. Oh, Little Joe Animations, thank you so much for the super chat. You're so kind. Thank you. Editing Geek says Disney should make another 2D animated movie. I would love that, but they got rid of their 2D animation division like a long time ago. It's not. Unfortunately, I feel like that they're never gonna do that again. In fact, I don't know how many of you guys saw the recent Mary Poppins sequel with Emily Blunt, but there's a portion in that movie where they do traditional 2D animation, and they had so few people at the studio who still knew how to make 2D animation that they had to call back and rehire a lot of the old animators from like way back in the day just to make those sequences. So Disney is so far removed from 2D animation, they have no idea how to make that stuff anymore, unfortunately. Koharu says I was a year old when it came out. How old are you, Koharu? Editing Geek says Disney should make another 2D animated movie. Oh wait, I already just read that. Oh, Zion Parker says Mary Poppins Returns was good. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. The Modern Designer, exactly. The story of Moana really warrants a sequel. I feel like there's so much to explore with the sequel that doesn't even make sense to just go back to the original. Like, okay, let's stick with Tangled right now because that's what I have the page on. Anyone actually excited for this? I feel like I need to do a poll. Hold on, let's do a poll. Who actually plans on seeing this movie in theaters? Be honest, it's anonymous. Live action Tangled. Theaters, yes, no, or you're gonna wait till streaming. Alright. Asking the community. Oh, V is already saying no. Alright. Ethereal Dragon says Cartoon Network is rebooting Powerpuff Girls and Wacky Races again. Everything's just getting rebooted over and over again. Rain was 10. I think I was When did this movie came out? Tangled came out in 2010, right? I was oh, Koharu's 14. Oh, this is gonna make me feel old. I was 14 when this movie came out, so I was Koharu's age back then. Um, yeah. Natanya says I was 9 years old when the movie came out. Yeah, so we were. The point is I'm trying to make is that the fact that this movie is less than 20 years old, it's like the people that the movie that was targeting when like we were all younger, when we were like teens and little kids, we're still like a lot of you guys are still like teenagers. You're still really young. So it's like it's not even passing down to the next generation yet. Same thing with Moana. Um yeah, a lot of you guys are just proving my point in the chat. Minecraft builds with me. Nope, not supporting any Disney live action remakes. Interesting. So far, it looks like 60% of you are saying no, you're not planning to see this movie at all. Interesting. 20% of you are saying you'll just wait for streaming. And 21% of you are saying yes, you're absolutely going to see it. That's about the same breakdown as the last stream, so that's funny. But it looks like the vast majority of you are not going to see this in theaters. I wonder if this is going to become like a running trend where just like less and less people support the live action reboots. Little Joe's Animations, thank you again for the super chat. You're so kind. I disagree, Zachary Levi. He supports strikes. He was at a fan convention, which is why he was saying not talking about past projects was dumb. Oh, yes, we did briefly talk about the Zachary Levi thing yesterday. For those who don't know what Little Joe is talking about, Zachary Levi had a bit of controversy like last week or so where it looked like he was like talking down about the strikes, but then he later clarified and he was like, no, I'm for the strikes, so it's all good. I think there's also a bit of the media is like taking a lot of actors' words out of context to try to spin it and make them look like they're against the strikes. I think that's coming from the studios, to be honest. Oh, we have another super chat from Baz Banter. Thank you so much, Baz. Thank you so much. You guys are really kind. Thank you again. But moving on to the live action Princess and the Frog movie. How do you guys feel about this? Here's my thing. Here's my worry. Most of the movie, Tiana is a frog. So are we going to be watching a live action frog? No, 2 live action frogs. Like making googly eyes at each other and kissing? Because I don't know how that's going to work or look, and I feel like that could be very, very off-putting. You know what I mean? I'm not so sure about this just because, again, I don't like when they try to adapt animals. It just always looks uncanny to me. And the vast majority of this movie, the main characters are frogs. So how is that gonna look? I feel like that's gonna be very, very scary looking. Yeah, Zion, they need to leave it alone. Yeah, Natanya, I'm glad we're all in agreement here. I would do another poll, but I feel like you guys are all just gonna say no again. I feel like I know the answer. And an alligator. Thank you, Mauricio. And the fireflies. Oh yeah, there's like a whole bunch of characters that are just like fireflies. Are we gonna get live action fireflies? Like, how is that gonna look? I don't want to see live action fireflies talking. I'm sorry, I don't want to see that. Oh, we have another super chat from the modern designer. Thank you so much. Glenn Keane, lead animator on Tangled, worked so hard to give CG animation the look of hand-drawn art and paint. That's why Tangled looks so beautiful. Tangled does look really beautiful, and I don't think the live action can even compare. Just because they tend to want to go very realistic, which means desaturating all the colors and making everything look very blah and gray. That's been their motif lately. So yeah, I don't even think this live action Tangled movie, if they make them, because to be fair, these are just rumors right now. We don't know if these are confirmed. I do believe them, just because I know this source has gotten a lot of things right before. It's from the Dis Insider. And also just because it sounds like the exact kind of thing Disney would do. So I believe it. But yeah, it's just, I don't see how this could work out. Oh yeah, Wixos Trick says we're in trouble. Look at what they did with Flounder. Exactly. That's exactly my point. Um, like the fact that look at what they did with Flounder. Look at what they did with Sebastian in the live action remake. We all saw how creepy those animals looked. And now that's going to be the whole movie. But with the frogs and the crocodile and the fireflies. That's like arguably even worse. Even with the Lion King, you at least had like live action lions. Yeah, I still didn't like that. I still thought it looked weird. But I'd rather there's one thing watching like lions roaring around and like I don't know, doing their thing. And it's another thing watching like frogs try to flirt with each other, you know? Um I also heard the live action Rapunzel will be Indian. Where'd you hear that? I didn't hear that, rats. I have no idea. But my thoughts are with the actress if they do that. That's so bad. Maiden says, is it going to be completely realistic or is it going to be slightly realistic like the abomination of live action Jiminy Cricket? Oh, yeah. I don't know. That maybe they do like a blend of both. Like they did kind of a blend of both with Jiminy Cricket in the live action Pinocchio movie where he looked like a cricket but his face was still kind of cartoonish. Maybe if they'll do something like that. I think it's going to have to be a blend. It can't be like too realistic. If they go realistic with this, I do think this movie will look super creepy. Live action Dr. Facilier. I don't know. I feel like he's not an animal, so he could look all right. My main issue is with I don't want to watch a 2-hour movie about frogs. I don't know. It's just some things work better in cartoon form. Dee Dee, again, thank you for the super chat. So kind of you. The only adaptation that will work are the ones that don't have animals. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's why Atlantis would work well. And that's why I've been saying that. Thank you for making my point. I keep saying I think a live action Atlantis would actually work really well because there's no animals you have to redo. There's nothing that would look off in live action. You could translate that movie literally and it would look fine. Anything where it's like mostly animals, it's gonna be strange. Very strange. And they wouldn't be as expressive as the cartoon, exactly. Something Clever says, wouldn't mind an Indian Rapunzel set in India and using Indian lore. That would be quite a change. That would be quite a change. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I think that would bring instant backlash and controversy over the movie. I think people just want the princesses to look like the princesses that they remember. Like, for example, if they race bend Tangled, or, sorry, not Tangled, if they race bend Rapunzel, but they don't race bend, Tiana, that will be the conversation about both of these movies until they come out. That's all people will talk about. It's like, why does one get race bent but the other doesn't? And I don't want either of those actresses to be put in that awkward position. Because I don't know if it actually ends up helping anyone in the end. I mean, look at what happened with The Little Mermaid. That movie, it didn't horribly, flop like The Flash, but it did disappoint. And, that could hurt Halle Bailey. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. Yeah, the frog definitely has to be female. The cover girl says, just remember the Moana live action. I wonder how the lava monster and the giant crab will look. Exactly! Again, with the live action Moana. Can you imagine what that crab is gonna look like? Do you want to see a live action crab singing Shiny? Do you really want to see that? Some things should just stay animated. They should have just made an animated Moana 2, not a live action version. Exactly, poor Haley. That's kind of how I feel. It was beautiful, Arvin. I liked it. 0.0 says Disney should research about fairy tales and legends from all around the world and actually make a good animated movie for once. I want more original, like what Princess and the Frog is, except actually don't turn her into a frog. Let's have more original movies, original Disney princess stories starring other people from different races, so we don't have to like race bend things. I want more stuff like Princess and the Frog, except again, don't just turn her into a frog for 90% of the movie. I think that's the much better way to go about representation and diversity than the way that Disney has been going about it. Little Joe's Animation, thank you so much. Knowing Disney, Tiana will be light mixed. Oh god, if they cast a light-skinned actress for Tiana, doesn't even matter. Both the left and the right will hate this movie. It won't even matter. A Rel W says, I think the women who sing for the princesses should release CDs. They have nice voices. I think probably a couple of them have. Rain E says, a big part of Tiana's story is that she's a black woman living in the 1920s. That's why the sellers denied her from the deed to her restaurant. There was no reason to race swap her. I get that. But my point is, the minute you start race bending some characters but not others, you're going to invite comparison. And I think the result is a toxic atmosphere that ends up hurting everyone involved, even the people you're trying to serve. So that is my argument on that. But you're perfectly entitled to your own opinion. Yeah, you can't please everyone, Jules. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like we're definitely living in a time of art where it's like you have to try to people are trying to appeal to like everyone possible, and that's not really possible with any one piece of art. You know what I mean? The motion designer says, I heard people are making Princess and the Pea. It's called Penelope. What? If it's something new, I'm for it. As long as it's not a remake, I'll maybe accept it. We'll see. But I do want to get on to my member questions of the day. Again, if you want to be a member, please just press the join button at the bottom of the video. Also, I did put the link in the description ahead of time. I remembered this time. So if you want to become a member, just click that link in the description. If you're on iOS and don't see the join button, that should also help you become a member. If you become a member, I post in the community page, members only posts, and you'll get a personal shout out in my video. So today I asked members, due to the rumors that Disney is developing a live-action Princess and the Frog and a Tangled movie, would you like to see these films? Why or why not? And I got a lot of really interesting comments from people. I just want to give a couple shout outs to some people. I see a lot of you guys who are actually in the chat right now are like the ones commenting on the post. So I appreciate you guys for being so engaged. That's really nice. Natanya says, I love both movies, but I don't trust Disney to do live action justice. They do a lot of live action movies injustice. So yeah, my trust in Disney has gone down substantially. Editing Geek says, I wish Disney could just let things be. We don't need live-action remakes of everything. Totally agree. The legendary movie critic, Josh, says, I love to see a live-action remake of the Princess and the Frog movie after The Little Mermaid with Normani. Oh, with Normani as Princess Tiana. Interesting. I didn't even think about that. I think a live-action remake of Tangled, Frozen, and Encanto are inevitable. Oh yeah. Once they make Frozen 3, we're definitely getting a live-action remake of the entire Frozen trilogy. For sure. And probably after we get Encanto 2, we'll probably get live-action Encanto. We're getting live-action everything, essentially. A-Rel W says, I don't think they should attempt live-action Princess and the Frog. Well, they might. They might. It's looking like they might. Kat Colfer says, you don't want to see what they'll do to Pascal? Yeah, it could look very creepy. These films are great because of the freedom that animation offers. They're visually beautiful and the characters feel real, although they are impossible. You know, because of the lack of magic in the real world. Disney has decided that real-life adaptations must also include set and character design realism, which sucks the life and beauty from the movies. That's been the point I've been making for months. Thank you, Kat Colfer. Disney has a realism problem, which I've even titled one of my videos as, where they feel like they have to make everything super gritty, super real, super grounded. And I just don't think everything needs to be like that, and I think you're sucking the charm and magic out of your movies by doing that. Oh, Real David Jones says Normani's vocals aren't strong enough. You know what? I like Normani, but I have to actually kind of agree with that. She's a much better dancer than she is singer. Even though she is talented, I think, yeah, you kind of have to have like really, really strong, like belting vocals for Tiana. I don't think uh, Normani is a belter, although she looks the part. We have a super chat from Luna Lana. Thank you so much, Luna. Really appreciate it. Don't say live action Toy Story cats. Oh, that would be awful. Oh, don't say that. Baby Banana says, why do Disney not make a movie about Subway Surfers? I feel like it's just a matter of time before there's a Subway Surfers movies for sure. That CoverGirl official says, I still watch them to see if they're good, but I will probably wait for streaming. I think a lot of people are going to wait for streaming. I think a lot of people are just done with these live action remakes in general. Shelly Lee, who is always a wonderful and generous member of the community, thank you, Shelly, says, considering that Jasmine was a frog for a majority of the movie, exactly, that is a hard pass for me. Exactly, thank you. Tangled I don't really care for one way or another. We are on the same wavelength, Shelly. I'm like, I don't understand how they're gonna do a live action Princess and the Frog when we're just gonna be watching frogs. They're gonna have to change a lot about that movie to make it good, in my opinion. A24 Subway Surfers movie, no! Could you imagine an A24 Subway Surfers movie? Y'all are wildin'. Okay, Arvin says, imagine real frogs cutting mushrooms while floating on leaves on rivers. That's really creepy. Yeah, exactly. Like, I just don't see how they can do this movie. Like, they need to make it animated. Just make a sequel. Just do an animated sequel. Don't do the live action. Nicholas Wilson says, genuinely interested in your opinion on The Princess and the Frog. In its day, Disney was accused of pandering in the same disingenuous way that they have with recent movies. But on the flip side, I would personally argue that having the main character be a woman of color was a huge step forward for Disney at the time, regardless of motivation. Here's the thing about The Princess and the Frog. Disney messed up with that movie because I don't think they would have made this mistake today. But here's the thing. The Black community does not mess with voodoo and all of the weird, like, witchcrafty stuff that's in that movie. A huge part of the controversy around The Princess and the Frog at that time was the fact that it was, like, heavily about voodoo. And that really turned a lot of people away. Like, a lot of people. I think if they were going to give us the first Black princess, I really wish they had not leaned so hard into the voodoo aspect, because that's, like, something that Black families are just not going to mess with. I think they really misread their audience. That's what I think of the Princess and the Frog movie. I like the film, I do. I just think that they really misunderstood their target audience with that film. That's how I feel about the movie. Mauricio loves voodoo. Interesting. Okay. I've never messed with it, because again, we don't mess with voodoo. Zion Parker says, I wonder why we never got a Temple Run movie. Give it time. Give it time. Facts. I agree, no voodoo. I mean, it was a huge controversy around the voodoo at the time. Like, that was one of the common complaints about the film. I just think that it was just, they misunderstood their audience. Again, I don't think they would make that kind of mistake today. They have, like, people working behind the scenes that know about cultures and whatever working on these films. But, yeah, I think that was, like, a mistake. Maiden of Husband says, no, I don't want to see live action frogs. Again, singing and running around with live action crocodiles. That's going to resemble the Shawn Mendes crocodile. And seeing the bugs and fireflies being live action. Even the cartoony ones. Animated movies are made animated for a very specific reason, exactly, no matter what, because it's a cartoon and was drawn with the mindset of, I can't get away with stuff because it's a cartoon. Again, I agree. Very much agree, Maiden of Husbands. I'm going to reply to all of these later. But I just wanted to give these shout outs to members. Again, if you want to become a member, just click the join button at the bottom of the screen or click the link in the description. But yeah, as everyone keeps making my point for me, I think seeing all the live action animals is going to be really creepy. And I just don't know how they're going to do that well. Moving on. Okay, anyone having any other final thoughts about the live action Princess and the Frog and Tangled stuff before we move on to the Marvel visual effects stuff? Final thoughts? Purple Molly says the Firefly was too stereotypical and offensive. I actually agree. I think that movie. I think Princess and the Frog pandered so hard in a way that they wound up being offensive in some kind of areas, in some ways, but not in others. I'm not saying it's like a bad movie or it should be canceled or anything. Nothing like that. I just think that again, Disney desperately miscalculated their audience with that film. Most of you are just saying it shouldn't be made. I agree. All right, so moving on. Oh, Dove Cameron as Charlotte. I could see that. But she doesn't have a high voice, though. She has a very low voice. I don't think that would work. Anyway, moving on. Marvel is in trouble. Huge trouble. A lot of you guys have been talking about how, oh, why aren't more visual effects workers not striking as well? And I told you it was because they weren't unionized. But now it's looking like they're trying to do that exact thing. And if all these visual effects workers actually do get unionized, that means there could be another strike on the way. So we could have the WGA strike, and we could have the writer strike, and then we could also have the VFX workers striking. Now, they're not trying to just be their own separate union. They're actually they actually voted to become part of IATSE. I told you guys IATSE is the labor union that represents like artisans, technicians, stagehands, craftspeople, pretty much any of the crew people behind the camera. The VFX workers are trying to become part of this union so that they can also strike essentially because again, as I told you a couple of streams ago, next year IATSE actually has its negotiations for its contract. So it's very possible that IATSE could also go and strike next year. And we could see 3 strikes if the first 2 aren't done yet. I think they will be, but we'll see. But if IATSE strikes and the VFX workers are a part of that, this will also shut down the entire industry again. So even if the WGA and the SAG strike is done by early next year, if IATSE goes on strike again, and that includes the VFX workers, Hollywood is just going to have to shut down all over again next year. So, again, we just could be dealing with, like, multiple strikes popping up, and I just don't see, like, regular production happening again long-term for Hollywood for at least another year, maybe more. I think it's going to be that dramatic. I think Hollywood's in it for a lot of pain, is what I'm saying. Nicholas says, man, this is some baptism by fire for Hollywood. It really is. Kasaki says if the VFX workers go on strike, then the movie studios will be in trouble. Literally every production, every studio depends on VFX workers. Like, most of these movies are practically animated at this point, especially Marvel films. Marvel films can't be made without VFX, so basically no Marvel movie could be made if this strike was happening. So this affects them hugely. Did I say hugely? Hugely is a word, right? Yeah. Are you guys actually upset about this? I mean, to be fair, we've been hearing a lot of stories about how the VFX workers for Marvel haven't been treated very well, how they've been overworked, how they've been giving long hours with no breaks, how they haven't been paid or compensated fairly, how Disney and Marvel will have them work up to the last second and constantly change things and edit things, and it's just we've just had like nonstop article pretty much for the past couple of years just talking about how the visual effects workers have been mistreated. So now that they're finally unionizing and they might strike, oh boy, this is gonna change a lot. Josh Loves Movies says no movie or show can be made without VFX or CGI, so all the studios would be screwed. Exactly. And if we do get a third strike happening next year, and that goes on for months, as it might, seriously, when is the next time Hollywood is going to be able to go back to just, like, producing stuff, like, consistently? It's going to be a while. It's going to be a minute. Prince says, wait till animators join. Oh, God. I actually want that for them because I want animators to be protected as well. But if animators join this strike, and it's very possible they could if the VFX workers can, oh, it's gonna affect everyone. Baby Banana says this is good news. Marvel needs to go. Some of you are like, sir, this is so good. Why would I care? Some of you are like, why would I care? This is like, yay, no more Marvel movies, which is fine. Prince says 2026, 2027. Oof. I think you might be right. I don't know if it'll be that far. I think Hollywood will get back to regular production by the end of next year. But again, that's going to be after a year and a half of basically no production. So that's going to mean, because it takes years to make all these movies and stuff, that means like 2024, 2025, and 2026 potentially could all be affected by these strikes, because that means stuff is going to have to get delayed, stuff is going to have to get moved around, and there's just not going to be a lot of content for a while as Hollywood has to ramp back up again. So it's just, this is all going to affect Hollywood for years, not just for a couple of months. Marvel deserves it, says Martin. A lot of you guys are saying that. Interesting. Rachel says, this is a good thing. Marvel needs a chance to breathe and get some better ideas. All right. I actually think Marvel needs to reboot. Here's what I think. I think Marvel's overall storyline has gotten so convoluted and messed up, and no one knows what's even going on anymore, and like we're all just like, what the heck, man? It's just, I think after, honestly, if it were up to me, if the Jonathan Majors case doesn't go his way, and he does go to jail, I think they should just get rid of Kang Dynasty. And I think they should just go straight to Secret Wars. And after that, they should just reboot and focus on the X-Men. I think trying to incorporate the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in an already confusing and convoluted universe is just going to hurt the X-Men. And they need the X-Men because people are losing interest in the Avengers. So I think they need to reboot, honestly. I think it's at that point where Marvel needs to consider it. Shelly Lee! Oh, hi, Shelly Lee! Well, Brittany, let's see what you got to offer the movie world then. Well, I do want to make movies. I want to work on stuff. Well, it won't be for a while because, again, no one's working on anything, but I've always wanted to make a movie one day. Maybe one day. Nicholas says Endgame was the end, and yet it still keeps going. I know. That's the thing. I feel like most people feel like Endgame was the end, and now all these constant movies after the fact is just to keep the thing going and just to make money. And I feel people, like, they know that. Like, intrinsically, they can feel like they're just getting more content because it's for cynical reasons. And I think that's also keeping people away. Or maybe that's just too idealistic. I don't know. Maiden says they desperately need a reboot. You can tell that they're just doing all this now because of nostalgia money. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. You can tell it's all just forced. Prince says, me too. I'm gonna want to make an animated show. Oh, Prince also wants to make something. That's great. I hope we all get to make it, whatever it is, one day. Yeah, it just feels like everything is a constant cash grab now. So I hope these visual effects workers get what they deserve. I hope they do unionize with IATSE, and I hope that IATSE does go on strike next year, as they most likely will. And once IATSE goes on strike, it's gonna be bad, y'all. It's gonna be really bad. Because think about it, again, there's a very real possibility that both the writer's strike and the SAG strike are still going on early next year, like January or February, and then IATSE could go on strike just a few months later. That would be horrible. Even if IATSE and SAG do come to an agreement, things would only be allowed to, like, rev up again for a couple of months before everything would have to get shut back down. This is the possibility that we find ourselves in. Thank you for the modern designer. Thank you so much. If I was in charge at Disney, I'd stop remakes and make Kingdom Hearts in the style of Spider-Verse. Ooh, that's a good idea. Having a different animation style for each world. You should be working at Disney, the modern designer. That is a great idea. They should definitely delve into Kingdom Hearts. I actually think there's enough content there for Kingdom Hearts and enough interest and popularity that they could totally grow Kingdom Hearts to be their next MCU. And it should totally be animated, like you said, the modern designer, with different animation styles. That's a great idea. That's exactly what Disney should do. If I were Bob Iger, that's what I would do. Thank you for the super chat. Um, Dee Dee says, I can't wait to watch whatever you put out. Oh, thank you, Dee Dee. Josh Loves Movie says, I would watch a Kingdom Hearts movie. I feel like a lot of people would watch a Kingdom Hearts movie. Colby says, give this man all the money. I know, such a good idea. Shavivi. Oh, yes. Thank you, Jax. Prince, you always do a great job moderating. Honestly, you guys are honestly the best. M says, why haven't you hired whoever suggested it? Disney needs to hire them. Honestly, they should. Twinkle Toe says, I love animation. I barely watch anything that isn't. I mean, this is completely, I guess, I don't know. But if I think the younger generations are starting to like animation more than live action because again they play a lot of video games, they watch a lot of anime, they just like animation in general. I think as they grow older, I think animation is going to become more and more of like a mainstream thing and not just like seen as a kid thing. At least I hope that becomes the case. And original ideas. Yes, we also need more original ideas. Thank you. Moving on, we do have just a few other like brief fun news to go over. So, Will from Stranger Things is apparently going to be the main focus of the last season of Stranger Things. You know, whenever that comes out in like 2026, 2027. And all of these actors are going to look like they're middle-aged by then, but you know, it's what they can do. Like again, they can't film because of the strikes, but eventually, when the show comes out and the final season airs, they're all gonna look like they belong in, like, I don't know, they at least college age. Like, I don't know if they're gonna still look like high schoolers, but we'll see. But anyway, they're saying that Will is gonna be the emotional center of the final season, and it's all gonna tie around him, which I think makes sense. The first season was mostly about him, it's about finding Will. I always thought that the show was mostly about him. I thought even from the second season that Will was going to be more of like the main character than he became. So I'm not surprised by this. Are you guys excited for the last season of Stranger Things? Are you happy that Will's going to get more screen time this time? Colby B, about time. He's been sidelined since the beginning. That's exactly what I've been thinking. I'm like, why have they been sidelining my boy so much? Basically, since the first season, he's just constantly sidelined. Okay, Jackie the Frog says, I'm pretty sure season 5 is supposed to be in the future. I sure hope so. Oh boy, do I sure hope so. I hope it's like, I don't know. They have to be at least seniors in high school or something. Like, at least seniors. Okay, Josh says they're definitely gonna be a time skip. I hope there is a time skip. We have another super chat. Thank you from Little Joe Animations. Oh, you guys are so kind. They lost the thread of Will's presence. The story is about Elle. This is going to be jarring if he is suddenly the focus. Here's the thing. I kind of felt like from the first season, the main 3 characters of this show were Elle, Will, and Mike. Like, those were the 3 main characters. And since then, the show has progressively gotten further and further away from Will and has just focused on Elle and Mike. And even in the most recent season, season 4, Mike wasn't even in it that much. It was just mainly about Elle. So you're right, I think the show has become about Elle, but I feel like if you go back to the first season, it did feel like Will was supposed to be a bigger deal than he became, and then he just kind of became sidelined. At least it felt that way to me. But thank you for the super chat. I know he does deserve better, Royal. DD is also glad it's going to be about him. Me too. Maiden says, I'm always excited for Stranger Things. It's really funny seeing how much they age every season. I know. Every season, it just feels like years have gone by, clearly, because every season it's like a very clear age jump with the cast. It's funny to me. It kind of makes you think about how they got lucky with the Harry Potter cast and how those actors really seem to have aged very slowly and appropriately with each year. Could you imagine the Harry Potter movies if the cast had aged as quickly as the Stranger Things kids? And like by the third movie, they're looking like they were already should be in high school, and by the fourth one, they look like they should be college kids. Could you imagine if that happened? Like I've been thinking about that recently. Like, what if the Harry Potter cast had aged a lot more quickly than they did? Like, what if they were in this situation? It would have been a very different franchise. But anyway, um, Rena Gordon says because 11 is more popular. Oh yeah, that's definitely why they changed to 11. But again, I feel like that wasn't always going to be the intention, or at least that's kind of how I felt. Um, Nicholas says, and yet they stay in the same costumes, which is weird. I know. And it's like, don't you believe this was just a few weeks? Okay, they're talking about how they age up between each seasons. And it's really funny because they're always in like similar costumes to what they were in the last season, but they clearly look like several years older. It's like, oh yeah, I remember like a few weeks ago when we did that thing in the last season. It's like, weeks ago? You mean years ago? You do not look the same. Um, but yes. Dee Dee says, I agree so hard. The Harry Potter kids aged with their characters. I know, they really lucked out with that. Colby B says, if Harry started getting a deep voice and got buff by the end, it'd be hilarious. Exactly my point. They had to have aged. The Harry Potter cast had to have aged gracefully and slowly for that whole thing to work. And somehow the casting director managed to do that. Like, honestly, the casting director for the Harry Potter franchise deserves more credit. Jojo Rod says, Rupert Grint with face stubble going, we got to go to class, Harry. Exactly. Could you imagine? Just like Ron walking around with like face stubble and like a 5 o'clock like aftershave, like talking about going to class. Like that would have been awful. Natanya says, my favorite characters are 11 and Dustin. I like those characters. I think my favorite in Stranger Things is I think it's Will. I've always liked Will. But I do like Nancy a lot too. Maybe those two. Oh no, they're gonna have to cut the bowl off my boy's head. No, he has to keep the bowl cut. At this point, it's too iconic. They can't get rid of it. Moving on. Oh wait, no, that was the last thing. Yep, that was the last thing. I told you there actually isn't a ton of entertainment news to talk about. But somehow we made it an hour, so we had a lot to talk about today. I'm really happy about that. But again, thank you everyone who showed up to my live streams. Again, I do this every day, Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys were very, very generous and very kind today. I had a great conversation. I'm just going to answer a few more questions, and then that'll be the end of the video. Thank you so much, everyone who turned up. This could be about anything. You don't have to ask just about the adaptations or about Stranger Things, just about anything. Alia Blanca says, Daniel Radcliffe literally played as a widower like a year after the last HP movie came out. He played some horror movie after the Harry Potter movie came out. That might be the movie you're talking about. I actually did see it just because I was like still in my Harry Potter like session. I had to see everything with Daniel Radcliffe. But yeah, I think I know what movie you're talking about. Prince says, hey Britt, so I watched Q-Force and I actually loved it. Show was fun but also cringy at times. It's first ever character which has very explicit scenes visually. All characters are hot except Buck. I did watch the first episode of Q-Force. I thought it was actually kind of fun. It was cute. I also think it was like very stereotypical of the gay community. But it was alright. Amy says, Brittany, do you think Barbie can surpass Super Mario Bros. Movie? I actually think it do. I think it's only like a matter of time, maybe another week or two before it passes the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I think Barbie is going to be the highest grossing movie of the year. Barbie. Can you believe that? Nicholas says, LOL, everyone instantly insisted he was only Harry Potter when the Woman in Black trailer came out. I know, I remember that very clearly. Thank you, that's the name of the movie, The Woman in Black. I remember seeing that trailer too and going, Harry? What are you doing? I just couldn't see him as anything else. Did Frankie Wants a Snack says, did you like Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle? I did. I like both the Jumanji movies. I like the Jumanji movies a lot, especially the first one. First one I find hilarious. All right, I'll take one more question, and that'll be the end of the live stream. Again, thank you everyone who showed up today. It was really fun. And Styles says you should really be the new Disney CEO. Oh, thank you, thank you. I don't know if I want that job. That would be really stressful. Honestly, Bob Iger, I'm not jealous of him or envious of him. He has a lot on his plate right now. All right, but thank you, everyone. Again, I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have more to talk about. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of news. If there's not, it might be like watch me rank something on tier list or something, that kind of video. We'll see. But I'll see you guys tomorrow at 1. And I'll see you again. Bye.